So, hello, my name is Travis Lindsay. You are here because you want to see Ritu talk about the Entrepreneur's Guide to Understanding Your Customers and Target Market. This is brought to you by the CSUF Startup Incubator. That's basically the place where we help everyone, students, community members, you name it, go from concept to launch. And the main way that we do that is with a 6-month program where we bring residents in and we meet with them every week, talk with them about what they've been doing, how to launch their business. And through our methodologies, primarily the lean startup methodology, we help them actually get to a place where they can launch their business or grow it beyond where it is right now. It does come with a cost, but it is a tremendous value. One of the other things that we do is we bring in great speakers here like Ritu. So Ritu, she is the founder and CEO of Smart Tech Inc. That is a company where they help people put in the systems and manage their growth over time. And so they can work with pure startups or existing companies and help them put those things in place that help them grow their business. And Ritu, would you like to get started?
Sure. So let me share my screen. Just one of the things I wanted to set context on is the reason why we are doing this today, right? Obviously, our target market is individuals like yourself that are in business, that are interested in learning. And also from sort of give back, right? My own personal experience, I'll tell you, I come from a family of lawyers, doctors, engineers, professionals, but all perfect working professionals. So I didn't necessarily have mentors or had to, at the start, my learning was on the job. It took me a few years to understand how to run a business. And so what I'm hoping personally to do here today is to speed up that process for some of you who are looking to be entrepreneurs. I often hear, it is really hard to start a business. So my goal here is, what took me a few years, if I can help give back and give you an opportunity to learn, personal experience and from what I learned from running Smart Tech. So basically what you'll find is the examples I use are, either personal as an entrepreneur or Smart Tech. So what do we do, right? What Travis mentioned, basically we are a boutique offshore onshore consulting firm established in 2007. It took me a few years before we transitioned into an organization. Today we are blessed to work with enterprise, small business, and medium sized businesses. And I'll come to that because one of the questions I get asked is, I'm an entrepreneur thinking about an idea. I am a small business. How can you service enterprises that are $1 billion in revenue to small businesses that are either conceptual, starting to build out or execute the idea? How that works is we operate at 4 different levels. Strategy is the first thing. Anybody who's thinking about a business, the strategic goal can be one of 3. You're looking to realize revenue, you are looking to stabilize in a market you're already there, or you're looking to grow. What is your strategy and how do you then execute it into a plan? Right. So planning means I speak with like some of these, entrepreneurs, like they're targeting $1 million in revenue, or we are currently working. I'll give you an example with a nonprofit that wanted to collect about $1 million in donation. How does that work? Are you doing one event and it's a huge event and you collect? Or are you doing the same event like a gala for donation 4 times a year? Are you doing multiple events? Like, you have the community that comes to you. And so you do community events 3 or 4 times a year, but you do gala, right? So you need an overall plan. Is it year over year? We help you build that. from an overall perspective, that then translates to a tactical plan. And so what that means is, what are you going to do on a daily basis to get to your monthly goal, to get to your quarterly goal? So help you build from a business side your strategy and planning. And then we come to the technology or execution part of it. And we offer two flavors. One is you can do it yourself, and it costs you as little as, $300-400 a year, or we can manage it for you. And basically, in that case, you focus on selling, but we will run your payroll, your customer data, your sales commission. So that's how we operate. And why we can operate at an enterprise, small business, or mid-sized business level is because every business has 9 building blocks. It doesn't matter what scale. You could be an enterprise that earns $1 billion. You could be a trainer who wants to go online. Etiquette training was one of our clients. As little as their lifetime revenue value to us was $1,000 1 year, versus an enterprise client whose lifetime value, and we'll talk about some of these metrics, is $500,000. But at the end of the day, every business is thinking about customer segments, or what we call customer personas, and customer relationships. How do you build those relationships? What channels you leverage, right? So from a perspective of, I could go directly to a small business, or I can work with CSUF in their entrepreneur program. That's also a channel. Value proposition. What is our value, SmartTech's value? We consider, like our net promoter score, right? Like, why are we different? Because we have the experience, we have tested and tried. We are a small business. What activities do we need to perform? What resources do we need? If we are doing CRM, we need people that understand customer data. If we need to do sales performance management, we need people that have that skill set. They can understand strategy, that can understand how to build a plan. What partnerships are we building? And then cost structure, right? What are my operational costs? Those are key things. Revenue streams. If I'm doing a nonprofit gala, I can charge people tickets and get the ticket, but I can also get sponsors for the event, and that's an additional revenue stream to build. So today we're going to cover primarily customer relationship and customer segments, and then on 23rd we are again partnering up with CSUF to talk about cost structures and revenue streams. So when we talk customer personas, right? Who's my target audience? Who's my customer? Who am I going to? Am I talking to colleges and universities on their entrepreneur program? Am I directly talking to, my end client? Why do they want to buy from us? Why do they want to connect? Particularly, what are they buying? How do they buy? And then what is their lifetime value? Lifetime value is a metric we're going to talk about when we talk about metrics. It's basically you're looking to say, when we interact with them as a business, what are we expecting? And the lifetime value could be, 1 year, multiple year, total year, and we will cover that in more detail. Relationship. What is the customer's journey? And normally people look at it from a sales perspective. We'll drill into it. We need to understand what point in time the customer is, so that we can provide the value. We can help accelerate their conversion from a potential opportunity to a conversion to an actual customer. And then obviously through metrics, track if the relationships are working. The other thing you've got to, was somebody saying something? Okay. The other thing we've got to talk about is, what is the cost of customer acquisition? This could be your operational costs, your marketing costs, the time you're spending, anything that you're providing that has a cost associated. So looking at the cost, that's another metric we're going to talk about later today. So coming back to it, right? You will often hear about customer personas. Customer personas are, your end customer. What is their profile like? And basically there are components that drive the customer persona. So let's look at some of those. Coming back first to the journey of the customer, understanding the journey. So when they start, first thing is some customers may have needs identified, some may not even know that they need a particular solution. Assessment. I often hear, well, I can't afford in a system, it's really expensive. If we are targeting small businesses, obviously we need to make sure our offering is reasonable and feasible for them. So for as little, one of my partners like Begin offers, initial free subscription. They partner up with us and we offer onboarding for a couple of $100, a year annually. We can help sort of build that. So when you are talking to customers in your area, try understand what is their need, what is that they're looking for, what is the value you can provide, and then work with them to build their awareness. If you work through, like, for example, if there are multiple solutions, like why would they buy from Smart Tech versus somebody else? We will share if somebody's on another platform or struggling. We offer up, like, additional time value. We, as part of this session today, we're going to offer you free one-on-one sessions to be able to connect and bounce ideas, get clarifications, right? So think about what value you provide. Often as entrepreneurs, we chase revenue over value, and you will be surprised to know that pricing is not always the deciding factor. The value you provide can be sort of, that seal in the deal, right? The stamp that gets you there. Once you have worked with them, like, the next stage is acquisition, right? You're working with them on contract. You're helping them learn how to use your solution, supporting them through. Often we forego onboarding. And this is especially true if you're in technology. It's like, hey, we did a project, it's over, we're done, But if the best solution, or if you have the best product and the client is not able to use it, leverage it, right? Especially in services, giving them a really good solution doesn't work. Getting them engaged, having them own the solution, working on retention. The other thing as an entrepreneur you got to realize is once you win a deal, it's not one and done, right? The cost of acquiring a new customer is always higher than continuing retention. So if you have customers and you're losing customers, they're not staying with you longer. Why is that? Right? Are you failing on any of these aspects to build that loyalty, to build that relationship, that trust? One of the key metrics we're going to talk about is Net Promoter Score. That is what the customer will say about you when you are not there. That's what they think of you. So getting feedback on, yes, I delivered your order. Did it work? You'll find all of these big companies will send out a feedback form. How did you do? How did we do on a 1 to 10 scale? Right? We don't give, as entrepreneurs, value to that. And I want to give you an example. For us, about 4 years ago, we got pulled into a short project that was, about maybe 40, 50,000 for 10 weeks, right? We did the project. It was a large enterprise, a pharmaceutical company. They were struggling to meet their deadlines. Because the project had gone on for so long, it ran over, right? They couldn't get to finish the project in the budget. We were invested in their value, so we offered up additional 3 weeks of work that helped get them to the mark. 3 years later, because of them, we got a $500,000 deal. One of the customers was on the cusp. They talked to them. They signed up with us. And over a couple of years, we have a lifetime value of 500,000. So this is where one of the key things I always say, and the team knows this. If you are a trainer, etiquette trainer that's looking to go, online for digital training, and you're only giving us, $1,000 in total lifetime value, or you're a customer that is a 500,000 lifetime value, you will find we will deliver because we don't have salespeople. What we basically do, sorry, I'm going to remove this floating panel again and let me know if that comes through. We will always make sure that when we sign off, when we have enabled you, when we are done, that you will say that you valued our job. So this is where, beyond just getting the revenue, it is important to think about retention. It is important to think about building that trust and that loyalty. Now, in addition to that, why is this important? This is important because you may not always get somebody who wants to buy your product. You may find that you're having a different conversation, and it ends up being an opportunity to propose your product. So for an organic opportunity, a conversation, this is where it is very important to understand where they are at in their journey and how you can sort of, work with them to be able to be successful in building that engagement, in building that connection. Now I'm going to go back to when we talk about customer segments and customer personas, when you look at it, what are some of the key things to think about? So demographic is the first one. What is their age? What is their, things you can get online, like income level? What is their, marital status? Like, so from this, for example, and I'll take an example. I don't know if you all attended Victor's seminar, a few months ago, weeks ago. He talked about wanting to sell vegan, healthy snacks, right? Now, not everybody is the target market for him. There's a certain level of income, there's expectation based on his target market. He needs to look at what pricing, is he trying to go mass market? If he is, then obviously these demographics may or may not matter. But, if he's selling vegan healthy snacks, is California a better market or is Texas a better market? If he has to do a proof of concept, so demographics come in place. Then geographical, right? If you are selling a product that is geared for winter, California may not be your best market to target. So are you selling this locally? Is it something that you sort of have to build that connection in person? Is it something you're selling across US? And then you need to sort of think about how are you selling this globally? So then you have to account for languages, cultural differences as well. And that, goes into sort of the psychographics, right? What are the influencers? What are the interests? What's the lifestyle? And I'm going to take the example of, Victor's snacks as well. If you're selling to, people that are health conscious, right? You're looking at a certain demographic that you want to, a certain psychological profile. I want a healthy lifestyle. I want to be able to, spend and invest on that because that's my value there. So you're looking at people that sort of fit that. Behavioral is buying patterns. How often do they buy? How do they buy? If you spend hours on somebody, like for ourselves, right? We have software. If somebody who's our customer will renew online, year over year, and I spend hours trying to sell to them, that's a waste of time. That's not optimizing your business, right? If somebody is buying online and they prefer to do their travel online, like why would bookings online, if in-person interaction would not work, right? If I'm talking to people that don't necessarily understand the value of integration or automation, I've got to work to educate them. That requires more personal time. I'll give you another example. So, one of our clients is the largest um, retail distribution company for alcohol. Their peak selling time is ONDC, October, November, December, because it's holidays and vacations and festivals. And so during that time, they don't do any promotions because they are selling in any case. January through September, they have to incent their salespeople to do additional promotions so that the business can go up in those slow times. So, this is where understanding your business, understanding your target market, working with them is key because that helps you optimize your return. So, again, I am going to stop for a second. Do we want to maybe look at some questions?
So we do have one. Ramesh, do you want to unmute yourself and ask it, or do you want me to ask it?
I'll ask it. It's how can we accurately estimate the lifetime value of a customer when you're launching a new product?
So,
You have a price, you don't know how long they'll stick around.
yes. So this is where I think we've got to talk about you may have to go in, make certain assumptions, because if you're starting off, so when I first started off, I said, I'm looking at, these are the enterprise, these are the small businesses. This is sort of what I expect out of it. And then I'll talk about something called evolve, rinse, and repeat. Right? So you may start off with the assumption that are a little bit higher, lower, but you can reset based on your you can also do some research on what do they invest. A company that is $1 billion in revenue, what is their investment in a CRM solution, right? Or for example, working with the nonprofit, right? They don't have necessarily a budget as high. So we can ask them to say, talk to a few nonprofits and say, what do you invest in? If I was to come and do a strategy session or a plan or consulting for you, Ramesh, what do you do?
It is a non-profit that I'm looking at, and it's really around well-being. So
Okay.
the customer will be the average resident. Well, the consumer will be the average resident, but the customer will be government departments or local authorities, what we have here.
Okay. Okay, so I'll tell you what, sign up. Once when I bring up the form, sign up. I may have some suggestions based on my experience, and we can do back and forth, on how you can apply. Because even though government, and you have others, there are opportunities to bring in additional revenue streams like sponsorships, and that might get you more revenue. So this is where I talk about thinking outside the box, right? Because there are opportunities to leverage that may not, it's not always the end customer that you need to think about, right? There are partnerships, there are channels. So when I bring up the form, sign up, and we'll take that a little bit more detailed offline. Okay, let me share my screen again. Now we're going to talk about some key customer metrics, right? So win rate. Win rate is basically, how many were in your pipeline? How many did you actually convert to sale? What is that percentage, right? Generally, when you start off, it's like, 1%, 2%, 3%. Companies that optimize go all the way up to 99%. How you can do this is you have to track. There are two ways. One is, let's say if I realize I have, 1%, and I need 10 customers to sign up because I've done my financial modeling and I figured out I need 10 customers to sign up. Now I know that in my pipeline, if I have 100 opportunities, 1% means I will only get one customer. The other way to work around this is, let's say if I get 1,000 in my pipeline, I broaden my funnel to reach out, I will get the 10. That's a short term. Over long term, you have to figure out, if I was talking to 100 people and I only got one, what am I not doing right? Is my messaging not correct? Am I not approaching the right medium? Is my product not offering the right value? Am I targeting the wrong customers? You got to look at the profile or persona of the one that closed to sort of build towards better outcomes. The next one we're going to look at is customer lifetime value. When you are doing financial modeling, you generally look at, this is my first year, this is my second year, this is my third year, a year-over-year plan. And you may look at lifetime value over that period. What that means is I need to be maybe net even the first year. That means I need, 2 enterprise clients, 15, small businesses, 5 medium businesses. This is my number, and this is what I can expect to get. Go conservative, and then we will talk about rinse and repeat, right? So evolve, rinse and repeat. This is where data, platform, dashboards, business insights come into play. Lifetime value is basically, what is the maximum return you're getting from your customer? A customer profile, a customer persona. The next one, and there are more metrics, but these are key that, we need to think about as we're sort of working our business. Customer acquisition costs, right? What am I spending to get my customer? What are my operational costs? And you can do an average per customer based on what your costs are. Am I doing a marketing event? I may do a lunch and learn and pay for the, luncheon that I'm doing. I may send him, promotional gift cards. I may spend my time with them. And what is the value of your time with them? So putting together acquisition costs. And normally a good metric is the CLV, customer lifetime value, and customer acquisition cost should be 3-to-1 ratio. So if you're looking at the cost of acquisition, and the costs are really high, you need to focus on how can you minimize your cost of acquisition and maximize your customer lifetime value. Now, starting out the door, it's not going to be easy, right? Because you are learning, it's a process you're building. This is where when we look at customer acquisition costs, and I'll come, later in the slide, I talk about some key takeaways. Process, technology enablement, maybe some investment upfront may help you get those down. And if you can rinse and repeat, so I will tell you the presentation that you're seeing here has components that come from 5-6 different initiatives. This is something I'm not recreating every time. This is something I've talked to people about, this training we've developed. For this, I pulled this together because that way I had existing. I've worked on the business model before with others. So build efficiencies, build platforms, build processes that minimize your acquisition costs. Because if you have to manually do everything every time, that is raising your acquisition costs. We've talked about the Net Promoter Score, right? Smart Tech does not have salespeople. We are all people that have delivery areas. We have business functions that are not purely sales. But our motto is that when we are done with the project for a client, they should be referenceable client. And again, I go back to, your lifetime value. And when I say your end customer could be $500 a year, could be 500,000, because you don't know where there is an opportunity. Your satisfaction or repeat business or, that trust, that loyalty, we want to ensure that when the work is done, that you are satisfied and successful. So we will often talk about what is your success criteria going into the project. So one of the things we don't necessarily think about as we go out the door is scalability, right? So from a scalability perspective, prioritization, right? Time is your most valuable asset. How can you make your day-to-day tasks, efficient, repeatable? So looking at it and looking at from a priority perspective, as a business owner, you will always have a rolling list, right? Sometimes when you have a 15 minutes, it might be worthwhile to send a quick email. That is key. Sometimes when you have 15 minutes, you may need to just step away from your desk and clear your head, before signing a contract. The same tasks may not be always the same priority. Understanding what is priority at that point in time is really important. So, looking at it to say, what do I have on my list, and what do I need to do today? Planning. It is really important to have not only an overall plan, but a plan that translates to day-to-day tasks, right? So, for example, for me, I say, my goal on an average is to do reach outs, 5 reach outs a week. Have I done? I'm on Thursday. Have I done those reach outs yet? No, let me spend the time. So, from a tactical plan, understanding that raising, like again, going back to the nonprofit example, raising $1 million is not going to happen in a day. What does that mean for your yearly activities, for your quarterly activities, for your, weekly, daily activities, right? Being able to have specific items on the list on your plan as tasks and executing them is key, right? Process. So, we do this education awareness for our end customers on, why their customer data is important. So we've built a process for it. And I'll talk about it in a second. You see the form that folks are filling in, right? We go from there to how many signed up versus how many attended. What were the mediums they came from, right? What was their feedback? How can we improve it? So and again, what happens is we are looking at it from an organization perspective. If you are an entrepreneur just starting off, if you're doing everything manually, your ability to track, optimize, enhance is restricted because it's a manual. Your speed to execute the task is restricted, but also eventually you'll become a bottleneck. Let's say you expand this task, your organization, you hire somebody. Well, guess what? If you had built the process day one, you would have something to share with the next person. Right now, it's in your head. You have a certain way of doing it. And, maybe you have 15 cards on your desk. And how do you sort of work or collaborate together? You don't necessarily have a platform. So evolve, rinse, repeat is something that should be constantly at the back of your mind. You are manually entering data in, all the people that you met for your business opportunities. Can you maybe just share a link, have them fill in their information? What do you do with that information, right? Building dashboards, reports to be able to use it. platforms. This is where technology platforms and data can provide you business insights. Yes, right now you're like, hey, I got to figure out how to run and what I want to do for the business. I'm not looking to spend money on automation. Again, I go back to there are solutions that are a few $100s that will save you hours of your time. And, let me see if I've got that up, right? So email and Excel files and social media, like, are you able to track the journey of the customer? Are you able to track what's working, not working? And I'm just demonstrating an example, right? Because I was at the same point. It's like I need to think about how to execute my business. I'm not thinking about process and data and optimizing, but those are some of the big benefits that come. Like, for example, from this form, we are able to build a dashboard which says, hey, how many attended, how many signed up, why did the people that sign up attend, how many signed up for the one-on-one, right? What is it that we are doing right or need to enhance? These are some of the things that then become tools and assets that you have on your fingertips. Does that sort of, help in terms of context? Any comments from folks that want to share? That's pretty much the sum total of what we were going to talk about today. So Travis, if you want to open up for questions or feedback or input, I'd love to get some.
All right. So does anybody have any questions?
I have a question. Sorry, I'm driving. It's Victor.
Sure.
Ritu, the rolling list really jumped out at me.
Yes.
Because, the entrepreneur's job, the founder's job is never done. Are there any, I guess, processes or ways to think about the rolling list? How do you determine what the priorities are?
So one of my first criteria is, before I shut down, is there any task that will make or break tomorrow's plan? Right?
Ooh, okay.
So, for example, like, let's say I had to develop this form and the person I knew was, impacted and evacuating the next day at 11 o'clock. That meant before I slept, because she's on Eastern time zone, any feedback on the form I have to provide her. This was 2 days ago. Right. So I still had time, but nothing else was higher priority for me. Right now, if I was at the same time signing a contract and I needed that contract signed, then I would have to evaluate, maybe the form, whether it's good or whether it's 80% there or 100% there is okay, but the contract is immediate revenue. So I always look at it from, what is it that's happening next, right? And so highest priority is immediate. From a revenue perspective, what am I looking at, right? But then sometimes I will shift revenue because it's also important that I know Candace is not available tomorrow, right? So if she's got a very short time period and she's got, priorities that are higher, right? So from that perspective, kind of working through. Does that make sense? That's why I say the same task will not be the same priority on another day, right? Sometimes I'm signing a contract and, it's been a long day. I will step away for 15 minutes, clear my head, walk, and come back, because walking and clearing head is important so that I register the verbiage on the contract. Yeah. Right? So never think that the same task or the same goal is, your priority. I always have a rolling list and I look and it say, what's the impact and, what will give me the most value? Am I holding things up the next day? Right? So India team comes on. Do they need something from me before I sign off? So you've got to figure out your list of priorities. Sorry, there's not like a one size fits all answer.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I tend to do a weekly list, but I find even a weekly list sometimes gets outdated very quickly. So I'm interested in potentially looking at it as a daily priority. So thank you.
Yes. Sure. There's always, my rolling list. And as things come, the other thing is you want to jot down things, whether you capture them online or on paper, because sometimes we forget things. So this list, like, maybe 20 items, 50 items, it just write everything down because you have a reference point, right?
Thank you, Ritu. Appreciate it.
Sure.
All right, Ritu, thank you very much. Is there anything else you would like to share with us before we get out of here?
No, is there any feedback really quickly on, on the session from folks that attended? If there's any comments or suggestions, we'd love to take those as well.
I'll jump back in. The things that jumped out to me, and it'll be different for everybody, but it was the dashboards.
Yes,
And a lot of times, especially as a founder, when you have so many things going on, the thought of creating and building a dashboard just seems like another thing to do.
right.
So the way that you kind of systematized it so that you can see dashboards is very powerful. Right now,
Yes,
our biggest thing is we're focusing on content creation for our brand. So that means
yes.
what stage of the pipeline are people in? What's our impressions for our social, our engagement, traffic to the website, right? And doing it every week and populating those fields is just very, very time consuming. So the thought of having something automated in a dashboard is very powerful.
So, not to specifically quote me, because the pricing may vary, but this is something, Victor, that we offer as an organization, right? So for maybe $600-700 annually, we would set you up on the system, create the dashboard, and so it's plug and play for you. You just have the data come in, and it populates the dashboards for you. So
Right.
it's not a manual effort, right? And this is where I go back to sometimes, we don't realize that there are very cost-effective options that work that will save time and effort on our part. So thank you for asking that question. You kind of helped me.
Of course, I do have a follow-up. Okay, so assuming we're a startup and every startup has different processes they do.
Yes.
Is this kind of an a la carte solution where you look at what we're doing and automate it, or do you have modules? Like, how does that part work?
So basically, the modules that we have are contacts, and we build your custom approach. So, for example, in my case, I would say workshop sign up, right? Then I would say, like, here's sort of the attendance, and here's the one-on-one. We would build whatever is your design phase, approach phase, like stages for customer journey to your need.
Very powerful. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We'll talk.
Okay, sounds good.
I was
Um,
going to feedback one thing as well, Ritu, which is that the main thing I remember is that story about where you treat everybody as a lifetime customer.
Yes,
So you had a small customer, and because of the way that you treated them, it came up with more income much, much later on,
yes,
but you never knew it would do. So
yes,
just treating every customer as if they are, the most important customer makes a big difference.
yes. Sure. Their success is your success, and it pays off in ways we don't think of when we start off, Thank you. Sounds good. So Travis, at this point, nice to meet everybody, and reach out if you have any questions. Travis, I think pretty much on my part, I'm sort of, that's what I had to share.